You're watching Pyro Media Network. Hello, Pyro Media family. Thank you for tuning in. If this is your first time joining us, welcome. We hope your experience with us is fruitful. While we are loading your experience, please do us a quick favor and hit that like button from whichever platform you're watching or listening on. And we do hope you consider hitting that subscribe or follow button so you can check out more of our amazing content. All right, let's start the show.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of Conversations with Clergy. I am your brother, your friend, your homie, Dr. Donta Morrison. If this is your first time watching, listen, welcome, welcome, welcome. What's up, Daryl? How you doing, man? I appreciate you joining, being the first one here. So go ahead and let your friends and family and everybody know that we are live and in full effect. Conversations with Clergy is a very intimate and raw and candid discussion about ways that the faith community can become more involved in conversations about sexual health and wellness from an all-inclusive approach. Yes, I know that may be a tiring subject. It may be wearing people out like, oh my God, Donta, why are you still talking about this? Because the change has not happened yet. And what I've noticed is that when something doesn't change overnight, or over years or over whatever, we tend to back away, we tend to give up, we tend to do all that kind of stuff. Kwame, can you do a commercial real quick? Someone's at my front door. Be right back, y'all. Be right back. Not only were they at my door, he was banging on my gate like the police. And all it was a solicitor. I'm looking like, dude, really? I'm like, you don't hear me? First of all, you can hear me in my office from the front door. But it's like, hello. Sorry. Conversations with Clergy is about discussions. It's really going to just bring attention and awareness to ways the faith community can best elevate their approach to talking about sexual health, which is a very taboo topic within many places of worship because most people subscribe to a certain practice, certain behavior, certain position, and it may throw them off to talk about anything outside of that. So this show brings leaders from across the country, faith leaders from across the country to just sit and have conversation with me about how do we improve that? How do we change that? Because if you have not noticed, the Black church specifically is under a radar. just a radar, a hyper intense magnifying glass, and any kind of fault is being blasted all over social media. So if you are a pastor or elder, a deacon, a first lady, or whatever, anything you do now is being highlighted on social media and being chiseled down to the smallest microcosm to make you look as flawed and as raggedy as all the rest of us. All right. So it is important that we begin to have these honest and transparent conversations because people are leaving the church. They're leaving the church. They're leaving the Black church. They're leaving Christianity. They're just walking away. And it's not because they don't love God. They're just tired of the hypocrisy. So this show really is combating the hypocrisy and trying to find ways that we can bridge these gaps to really improve how we worship, improve how we love each other, improve how we love God, improve how effective the church is in community and all that. So for me, it's an important conversation. And I want to give shout out to Church One Ministries, who really helps to sponsor Conversations with Clergy. But our big juggernaut behind this is the HVTN, the HIV Vaccine Trials Network. Yes, Church One, give it up, but the HIV Vaccine Trials Network is the reason why Conversations with Clergy exists. If you have not learned about the HVTN, Google the HVTN, visit the HVTN, do yourself a favor, go to www.hvtn.org and then type in faith-based initiative, and you will see me along with all of my co-laborers in the fight from across the country, just trying to build these conversations, enhance the dialogue, and just create some change in our communities. All right. So with that being said, we're going to get into tonight's discussion, or today, depending on where you're at. Today's discussion with Reverend Dr. Jeffrey Howard. Yeah, he got a lot of titles. Brother got a lot of titles, but he is no stranger to the show. He is down in, is he North or South Carolina? Which one are you? He gonna let us know. But he has been doing this work. He has been on Conversations with Clergy, but is also a HBTN faith consultant. I mean, he does the work in the field. He goes out there and really just sparks these conversations, sparks dialogue. But he too is ready to see some changes in our spaces of worship. So with that being said, please, without further ado, welcome back to Conversations with Clergy. I almost said the Donta show. Oh, I miss it. Conversations with Clergy, Reverend Dr. Jeffrey Howard. What's up, man?
How you doing? Good to see you, man.
How are you? Hey, let's make this happen. Let's make this happen.
And that's South Carolina.
South Kakalaki?
It's South Kakalaki.
I love it. Hey, man, so, I like having you on the show because we can keep it 100. We don't have to go all around the mulberry bush and try to figure out the best way to talk about this or how do we address it. You just say, yo, Donta, let's do this. Right. We throw all the titles, all the stuff that we got under our belt out the window because it boils down to the people, and that's really what we try to do here. And like I'm sure you heard me say, people are just not trusting the church anymore. They're not trusting. They're not being a part of it because they're tired of the rigmarole. They're tired of the hypocrisy, and they're just burnt out. So when it comes to having conversations such as the one we're going to engage in on today, I assume you agree that it is long overdue.
Long overdue. It's a burden. Yeah, it's like pent up frustration. Yes, sir.
It is running us low and wearing us out. And then I also want to do a pivot to just do some conversations about COVID-19, the importance of still getting tested. If you want to get vaccinated, but just knowing that COVID is not over because some people are still living life like it's golden, like COVID has just dissipated into the air, not realizing COVID is here forever. It is like the flu, the common cold. And especially once we hit these winter months again, we're going to see a spike again in different variants. And it's a trip because people are, you always going to have the conspiracy theorists or whatever, but people are always inboxing me saying, see, I told you, we didn't have to get vaccinated. See, we ain't dead, yada, yada, yada. Okay, glory be to God. You didn't die. Right. But don't act like people didn't die, just because you didn't die. So tell the folks who you are. Those that may not have seen you before, tell them who you are, what you do, and all that kind of stuff.
I am the Reverend Dr. Jeff Howard. You can just call me Jeff. I go by many titles, but the greatest one that I do carry is the title of Dad. I am a proud father of two energetic children. Hudson, who is 3, who will be 4. Also, I have my beautiful daughter, Elizabeth, who we affectionately call Ladybug. She is 7, soon to be 8. So I'm back and forth with them. I joyfully serve at the Trinity Baptist Church on their health and wellness staff, and also in their recovery department with Celebrate Recovery. I'm an HBTN faith consultant, and I'm just out in my community trying to make a difference in the upstate of Greenville, South Carolina, Anderson, South Carolina, Easley, and Clemson. And if I'm not doing that, I'm always traveling to try to figure out where I can get the best seafood and crab legs. So if I'm not on the road one way, I'm on the road on the other way.
Well, I'm assuming you're in a great area to have that, the seafood and crab legs, because what I'm hearing is down south is where it's at. But then I also hear that you're down south, but your down south is different than the Atlanta down south. It's always a headbutt. So I'm on the West Coast, so I don't know which one of y'all is really down south.
I would say, don't tell nobody, but I would say Atlanta is a little more down south than South Carolina. But I get my seafood in various spots. But somebody said Alabama has the best seafood. Yeah, I would say South Carolina tops Alabama.
I love it, man. I love it. Hey, so let's dive into it. Let's dive into it. I think it is time that we just have a conversation. So, what you being, and you talked about your daughters and a father. And first of all, happy pre-Father's Day.
Appreciate you. Thank you.
I'm not gonna do that. What's up, Frat? How you doing, bro? I'm not gonna do that because I think we do a disservice to the dads, the wonderful dads out there, by kind of glazing over Father's Day. If we miss Mother's Day, trust America will burn. When I say these women will riot, they will riot. But they looking like, well, it's just Father's Day. No, it's not just Father's Day.
It's not just Father's Day.
If you didn't meet this man in whatever capacity, you would not have not near one of them cheering. So
that's right.
don't discredit fathers like y'all don't need much. No, y'all need to be recognized and acknowledged. I love seeing you with your daughters on social media. I feel like they mine.
That's right. It takes a village.
I'm like, yo, it takes a bill. I'm like, yo, whatever you need, hey, I got you. Just cash out here. But being that most people, and I have seen people when it comes to talking about sexual health, HIV specifically, anytime I pull a heterosexual man into these conversations, there's a lot of outsiders that question his sexuality. Why are you so concerned about HIV? Because that only affects those people. And it's really unfortunate, 30 plus years into the epidemic, it's still an epidemic, folks. People are associating HIV with homosexuality or whatever. And when anyone heterosexual, especially a heterosexual man, comes into the fold to speak out and loud about it, he must be on the DL. He must have this secret life. And I wouldn't let my husband talk about that. What keeps you going in this movement and in these conversations?
It's still affecting our community. I think you kind of hit the nail on the head as it relates to, folks are acting as if, these health disparities have just disappeared, as if they're, not in the forefront. And though it may not have looked like, our times may not look like how it was in the 80s and early 90s when it was really on the scene, it does not mean that people are still not new diagnoses, new cases are not still coming out. People are still don't have access to healthcare in order to get the medications that they need to combat HIV. And so folks are still having unprotected sex. Folks are still just doing whatever, living their quote unquote best life recklessly in those regards. And so because of that, we still have to have those conversations. I have friends, I have family members, and I'm sure, we have to at some point have to talk about what does it mean to be protected and protecting yourself. And just because somebody has the look, smell good, all of that does not mean that they have not been tested. And so because of that, you put yourself in harm's way with risky behavior. A second could turn into a lifetime of hell. And so that's why we still have to have this conversation in the year of our Lord 2024. We still
you're gonna be a reverend regardless.
Oh, I'm gonna be a reverend now. We're gonna have that.
The year of our Lord. Come on here. Come on here. And it's interesting you said that, because I had lunch today with some colleagues. And we talked about, HIV, of course, is still a problem, but we did it from the mental health side of it. And one of my colleagues shared that they have a client that literally tested positive, but refuses to believe the test. So this person tested positive 3 months ago and has gotten at least 5 or 6 HIV tests because he does not believe that he has it. And each test comes back positive. Something's wrong with your test kit. God wouldn't do this to me. I don't have it, so I'm not getting in treatment. And all that's going through my head is, okay, I get it. You don't want to accept it. However, in the midst of your non-acceptance, you are still going out there being intimate. And
That's
you're
right.
being intimate without protection. And if you don't believe you have it, if anybody asks you, do you have it? You're going to say, no, I don't have it. So you've also taken away that person's option to say, okay, well, let me protect myself. Because if you're being honest, they may be like, okay, cool, you got it. Well, I'm still now a condom is a must. But if you're telling people you don't have it, they like, well, you don't have it, I don't have it. So then ain't nothing gonna happen. But we do have people out there that are not disclosing. They're not disclosing. They're not in care because they're still in denial. And we have folks out there that are not getting tested because they don't think they fit the population that is most impacted by HIV. Right. So how do you in your work combat that mentality?
Well, first of all, I think it starts with, if we want to be transparent here, because I know we're talking about honest conversations with clergy, I kind of wanted to kind of rail on this idea that there's a theology and a movement out here that just says, hey, you can just ignore that and God will free you from all of this, poof, it's just happening, or you don't have to deny it. You don't have to accept it because it's just, you'll be free from that. And that kind of dangerous, mentality, that kind of dangerous language is something interesting to come across. But at the end of the day, what I've experienced in having these difficult conversations is being able to talk about the fact that, listen, you now been diagnosed with this. You are literally putting somebody's life in danger. You're literally giving them a lethal a death sentence if you don't disclose. And so at the end of the day, we have to then talk about the ramifications, the legal ramifications, the consequences that come with, well, let me say it this way, the criminalization of what happens if you don't disclose. And so by having those hard conversations, it kind of opens up. But listen, we're living in an age of misinformation, disinformation. I can YouTube it, Google it, put it on there. And, all of a sudden I know the answers now. Forget these people who are degreed up, medical doctors who have been doing this work for 20 plus years. And that is very hard, but that doesn't stop me and others from being able to still educate. I think if we get people the right education, being able to help them to understand about what does it mean to have the diagnosis, get the treatment, so on and so forth, it does make it a little easier. But still, yet we have this new generation that you just can't tell them anything. So that doesn't slow me down, but it just makes me much more determined to make folk awareness. And I feel like we have to be here. There's a little church here. We have to be prophets in the night, sounding the alarm, especially if you're out here having risky behavior, not having unprotected sex, and then not disclosing, putting somebody else at risk.
Exactly. I agree. Daryl, let's the question. Could not disclosing it be considered attempted murder? So Daryl, yes, but it is hard to prove that. You have to prove that they had unprotected sex with you for the purposes of infecting you. So they have to have an intention to infect you, because you also have to remember there is undetectable equals untransmittable. So if a person living with HIV is adhering to their medications and their viral load is undetectable, they cannot transmit HIV. Okay, that's first and foremost. So in the event you happen to be intimate with someone and you find out they have HIV, and then you run to get a lawyer and all that, I'm going to sue them, yada, yada, yada. Well, that person comes in and says, well, Your Honor, I'm undetectable. I can't transmit it. So there was no intent to infect you. But for example, that individual that is in denial about having HIV, if they have sex with someone, they don't disclose, that person contracts HIV, that is when it can be tricky and that person may have a case. Because it's like, one, you lied. I said, do you have HIV? And you said no. but 6 tests on record, documented tests, say you do have it. So you lied and said you didn't have it. Now I have it. Now you may not have had the intention to infect me, but you had the responsibility to let me know so I can make my own decision because you lied. So that's when you get into that legal side, like, okay, yeah, there may be some cases behind this or what's going on. And I think that's when the water gets a little murky and people try to figure out, well, I'm going to take this person to court. I'm going to take this person I'm going to sue them and all that kind of stuff. And I think that the most famous situation that I know about that came from a person going to jail was Tiger Mandingo. And he got 30 years in jail for not telling his partner he had HIV. He was sentenced to 30 years, but he got out in 5. He served 5 years. So this was like a few years ago, but he did that. And I think that was one of the most popular cases because it just showed like, wow, this is really something. But however, the trick with that case was Tiger Mandingo was African-American. And the ones that sued him were white men. And this was down south. And they're saying that he was an escort because he was in college. He was an escort trying to make money. He did not disclose his status. They sued him. He went to jail, for attempted murder, was sentenced to 30 years. He did 5 years. I just put the article in the chat. Oh, you're on YouTube, so you may not get it. I just put the article on my Facebook page about Tiger Mandingo. So yeah, that's something that we don't talk about. There's a responsibility and an accountability that should happen in the bedroom, but the church doesn't talk about that. They don't talk about that. The church just says, don't have sex.
Don't have sex.
I don't know why we still say that. I don't know if it's to CYA, I told you don't do it. It's like, yeah, but everyone in church is having sex. Everybody, all ages. Your mother's board, your deacons, they single, they widowed, they divorced. They're having sex. They're doing something with somebody else, whether it is the same gender or the opposite gender. It's human attraction. We're sexual beings, so it happens. So, Dr. Howard, you basically just said we got to wake up.
We got to wake up. We have to. And this ignorance of everybody's not having sex, this idea that, I think it goes back to a couple of conversations, and what comes to mind is the fact that we're still not comfortable having conversations about sex in the church. We refuse to talk about sexuality in the church. We are ducking and putting our head in the sand as if these rates and statistics are not still climbing. Particularly in South Carolina, we are still charting in the top 5. And so because of that, we must have this conversation. We can no longer pretend, and we cannot rely on other outside resources or organizations or third parties to have that conversation. I believe it starts at home, and if you can't get it at home, then the church should be able to step in and have that conversation. Regardless, and not pretend as if we just got here from a bird, a stork, or we were just brought in from just on a cloth.
Everybody's name was Mary. Everybody mama named Mary.
Mama named Mary. Yeah.
You said something very interesting. You talked about where South Carolina stands as far as the rate, the numbers, and all that. I want to go to commercial and I want to come back and talk about that. And it's a reason why I want to address it, because when I go to all these national conferences and whatnot, it's always countless workshops on HIV and the South. Now I'm from the West Coast, so I get a little offended, feel a little left off the table, but there's something to be said about HIV down South. And I want to talk about that after commercial. So we're going to take a quick commercial break, y'all. Don't go nowhere except to get some coffee or drink and come on back. We're going to do part 2 with Reverend Dr. Jeffrey A. Howard on Conversations with Clergy. Are you ready for enlightening conversations that transcend boundaries? Get ready for Conversations with Clergy, brought to you by the HIV Vaccine Trials Network. In partnership with the world's largest publicly funded international collaboration, the HVTN is dedicated to evaluating vaccines to prevent HIV and COVID-19. But their impact doesn't stop there. The HVTN is at the forefront of advancing vaccinology, social and behavioral sciences, statistics, immunology, and even contributing to the research on tuberculosis and COVID-19 vaccines. By supporting Conversations with Clergy, the HVTN not only brings you thought-provoking discussions, but also contributes to the global effort to combat infectious diseases. Tune in, stay informed, and be a part of the change. Conversations with Clergy, supported by the HVTN, empowering conversations, empowering lives. Join us in this journey of knowledge, understanding, and progress. Conversations with Clergy, proudly brought to you by the HIV Vaccine Trials Network, because together we can make a difference.
Elevate your entertainment with Watch Vim. Discover the ultimate online streaming destination. Get an auto-renewing monthly subscription for unlimited content on all devices. Join us in supporting a Black-owned streaming platform that brings top-tier entertainment. Let the streaming excitement begin at Watch Vim, your seamless experience for endless entertainment. Stream online or download the Watch Vim app now.
Did you know that you can now catch the electrifying sounds of Bulletin Flight Radio anywhere you go? Yes, you heard it right. Tune in to the high-flying beats and soaring melodies by downloading the TuneIn app on your mobile device. Just search for Bulletin Flight Radio and hit play. It's that easy. And if you have a smart device like Alexa or Google, just say, "Hey Google," or "Alexa, play Bulletin Flight Radio on TuneIn." Experience the rush of adrenaline wherever you are. Listen to Bulletin Flight Radio on TuneIn using your Alexa or Google devices. Soaring through the skies has never sounded this good. Don't miss out on the ultimate musical journey. Tune in now to Bulletin Flight Radio on TuneIn and let the music take you on an unforgettable ride. Get ready to elevate your listening experience. Brought to you by Bulletin Flight Radio.
Welcome back to the second half of Conversations with Clergy. I am Dr. Donta Morrison. I'm joined by my brother friend, Reverend Dr. Jeffrey Howard, all the way down in the Carolinas. And we're going to really have a quick conversation about the HIV disparities down south. And many of us, I can say, live in privilege that's on the West Coast or in states where we have just better access to care and we can navigate the medical system a lot easier and a lot more effective. So I'm going to ask that you just listen to this really closely and understand what our brothers and sisters down south are experiencing when it comes to accessing care, accessing testing, and all that kind of stuff, because the Bible Belt is a totally different beast than more progressive, allegedly, states. So Dr. how is it down in your area when it comes to combating HIV?
I think it's very tough when you think about southern states, since we're talking about the South, particularly South Carolina, but we have Georgia, neighboring states, Florida, North Carolina, in some cases, the hostility as it relates to the resistance to expand Medicaid and other options make it difficult for people to have access in much needed spaces to get what they need. When I think about rural South Carolina, just last year, I think the numbers were like 752 brand new cases of newly diagnosed as it relates to HIV. And so I look at the fact that there's a mistrust in the system. In some cases, there's no access to health care. There's no hospitals there. When I think about what we call the corridor of shame here in the low country of South Carolina, there is really obsolete of no hospitals, no things. So some people literally, in some cases, have to travel over 50 miles, sometimes 20 and 30 miles just to get to a basic healthcare provider. And so when we think about not having education, having those kind of things, resistance from state legislators to expand Medicare, it makes it that much more difficult. And when you put these scenarios, it's just a combustion element for newly diagnosed cases.
And I think that is the part that people miss out on. Access to care is so important. So even if people are being safe and they're trying their best not to contract HIV, and they live in these regions of the country where accessing care is not easy. When I used to work for a pharmaceutical company as a consultant, and they would fly me all over the country, do talks about living with HIV and medication adherence. And I was shocked when I would get to certain cities, specifically in Louisiana, Mississippi, certain parts of Ohio. And they were telling me, yeah, well, Donta, that's all fine and good, but the clinics in our area don't have any HIV specialists. They have no doctors. So we have to literally wake up in the morning at like 6 a.m. to make a 9 a.m. appointment. And just imagine you're en route to your appointment. You've been driving 2 hours. Then they call you and say, oh, we need to cancel your appointment. Can you come tomorrow or whatever? But you've taken a day off work. You borrowed your friend's car, all this kind of stuff, and just all the obstacles that they face when it comes to accessing care. And then keep in mind, if you identify as LGBTQ, it's not uber friendly. You may have a doctor that's homophobic, doctors that don't want to provide care. Then you deal with the racism. So you got a white homophobic Christian doctor, and you are a Black same gender loving man trying to access care. You don't feel safe. So therefore, if you don't feel safe, you're not going to access services. Now you're walking around, you have HIV, you want to live your best life, but how do I access services? And I think that's the part of this whole thing that often gets thrown out the window and people don't talk about, but it is really an important component to our care strategy. How do we eradicate these obstacles that are keeping people from getting their medication?
I think it also goes to the point that the lack of the ignorance that come with, just pretending or taking for granted that because I have a primary care doctor, I have access that others in the state or around the state have that same kind of care. As a clergy person, somebody in the church, somebody with a platform, it is up for us to sound that alarm. But again, if we're so closed in, box-minded, homophobic, whatever the case may be, we're not going to address it. And so we literally have folks either next door to us in our congregations or know of people that literally could be on the verge of death or dying, or their diagnosis could be a little further off worse because we're not addressing it, or because we're just oblivious to, not, just the lack of resources that people are getting or don't want to touch it. So when we talk about expanded Medicaid, we're talking about politics, right? And state legislator, but it's these legislative bodies. But if we don't know our local legislative person, our senator, or just the basic, just down the street, then it's all moot anyway. And I think that is where we get it wrong, specifically in I say South Carolina primarily, because we don't get out and engage that kind of work like that. And it is so hard, particularly in lower areas, because it's like you have to climb through red tape to know somebody just to engage in a simple conversation around sex and sexuality.
And I think you made a very good point when you talked about the social justice aspect and the role of the church. We have people in our churches that are dealing with these challenges, dealing with these obstacles, and we're not getting involved. So, but let someone come and say they have cancer, they got diabetes, they got this, they got that, and we're breaking mountains to make sure that we're doing all we can so that the big mama can have adequate health care. But that young gay man in the congregation that's living with HIV that wants to get into care and treatment, we turn a blind eye and say, well, that's not a huge issue. That's a result of your sin. And I think that we have to remove that sin mindset and look at the human aspect of this. God called us to love everybody, regardless of how you feel they should be living. God called us to love all, and that is our responsibility. So that social justice piece is so important. I see my brother Jerry McCants just joined in. He's big on the social justice aspect and the role of the church. The church used to play a significant role in the forward advancements of Black people. But something happened. I don't know if it was arrogance. I don't know if it was this false sense of arrival. Something shifted where we don't really get in those fights anymore. And I appreciate you for saying that the church has a responsibility to make sure that everyone within that congregation is getting the care they need outside those four walls.
That's right.
Period. And it's not that hard to do, but most don't even know that's a issue. Most of them that's a problem.
Well, again, leaning into my lens there, the social justice aspect of it, going back to what you said, I think it's critical that we meet people where they are. Because again, you started this conversation about me being a heterosexual man and just engaging with my LGBTQI community or allies or trying to be an ally. Then all of a sudden, something I got to be down low or all of that. Right. But no, this disease has no respect of person. It doesn't care. Right. Doesn't care who you are. If you don't get the medication that you need, this is what's going to happen to you. And so, we have to, as I think James Baldwin said, rid ourselves of these paradigms that teach us to hate ourselves or hate our brothers and sisters. And we have to dismantle, deconstruct that in order to get back to addressing these issues. These folks that tithe on Sunday morning, these people that come, they're living in some cases suffering in silence and don't know where or how or even if they feel safe enough to be to disclose. And so as a clergy person, somebody in the church, it is my obligation to sound that alarm. It is my obligation to meet you where you at and make it safe for you to just be able to talk about what you have going on. And if we don't, then that's only going to affect the church anyway. So we talk about members coming, but they can't come if they don't feel welcome. And so that starts with being able to talk about our health and wellness. Do I have an adequate health and wellness ministry? Do I have an opportunity for people to come who might have been, hurt, abused, and left out there, looked over? We have to meet them where Jesus met them at.
Do you think that first of all, agreed 100%, 1,000%. Do you think that there is a willingness amongst Black clergy to do that, but they don't know how to do it?
I say both and. I think that we have because we can't be so naive that we say that folks are just out here not trying or don't know how to get into the fight or know where to start. I believe that there are some who don't know how to start or where to start, which is why you have to go educate yourself. You need to know about the local agencies that are around you. You need to know who's in your congregation. So I believe that a church who doesn't know needs to start with a SWOT analysis. So you need to know the bios of those members in your church, because you can literally have MPs in there, public health folks, doctors, nurses. You have all the people right there in your congregation. I believe God gives us these gifts, these folks, to help combat these diseases that are out there. So it starts with the basic of wanting to know your congregation. If I'm going to know the pastor's aid committee, who's going to make sure I got my pastor's anniversary and take care of me with my tea and my Bible, then I got to also do a SWOT analysis to know that there's a doctor, a MD, or somebody working in the field combating these issues like COVID-19 and HIV. So that's on one hand. But then on the other hand, we do have an ignorance and an arrogance where we just feel like we overlook these certain voices because it makes us look bad, or our mind makes us, might the congregation might lean more to them than me as the senior pastor, right? So I think about, shout out to Dr. Bambi Gaddis and others, where these voices get silenced or not even acknowledged because we don't want to talk about sex. Again, going back to, we're gonna have to beat this horse. We don't want to talk about sex in the church. We have this we do this what I like to call a theological malpractice and an understanding of what sex is, right? And so we butcher people and we say, okay, hey, they have HIV, so that's a sin of their consequence. And so we just leave them out there to die. We don't ever talk about it, and we just move on to something else. We have this idea that if we are addressing it from a social justice lens, that it becomes too Black. But then as we think about the people we're pastoring, in some cases, it affects at least 15% of our congregation. So there's an arrogance that we don't have a responsibility to the people that we're leading and shepherding, or as an associate minister, helping to navigate the conversation to help those in the congregation. So I believe there's folks that on one hand don't know, but then there's an arrogance on the other hand of folks who do know and choose not to say nothing. And we're just as guilty if we don't say nothing.
We need to, Kwame, we got to get some music so I can get some applause sounds in the background or something when it's really a nugget like that. Or maybe have a slide that just shows fire and the bomb dropped and the mic, some kind of visual. because you summed up everything perfectly, and I think that was amazing. Just how you unpack that is so important that we begin to have these conversations, which is what I started this show for, to really address these conversations, to give people such as yourself a platform to speak truth to power, and to let people have something that's out there. They can come back and look at this 3 weeks from now, and your words you just said will still be relevant. You know, all the people I've had on Conversations with Clergy has been saying the same thing. So I think it's so important that I have these kind of voices, because people are walking away thinking that no one cares. You know, and I think that's the huge disservice. That's what's up, Dejan. That's what I'm trying to break. So thank you. You want to say something real quick? We got 3 minutes up on the show. We're going to pack this all up. Go ahead.
Okay, well, I just want to throw this in there real quick, because as I was talking, I thought about the fact that this work is dangerous. So I have to think about my clergy folks who are in denominational systems where they can't speak out, right? So if they speak out, they lose their church, or they lose their livelihoods and their families. So I would say in some cases, I think that in some cases that they can't speak out because of that as well. So I just want to throw that caveat as well.
Yeah, that's terrible. You got people that have a heart for people, but can't talk about the needs of people because the denomination will kick them out, take their house, fire them, blackball them so they can't get a job nowhere else. That's sad. That is terrible. And that is why so many people are walking away from organized religion. And it's unfortunate when this is your bread and butter, but your tongue is bridled. And you have to be this machine speaking on the behalf of a broken system. And I think that's just atrocious. And it's a disservice to the faith, you know, and I don't think God is a part of that. God is not pleased by that, because people are dying, and we're going to let them just die because it goes against the bylaws of the denomination. Really? That's what we're doing? So, yeah. Hey, Dr. Howard, listen, if I can get you once a month, I wish I could just lock you in for once a month, you know, on the show. You come on, you co-host with me. I get some other clergy on here, and you just doing your, man, we're going to talk about that bit, because I think what you're saying nuggets, and I love how you were breaking down this misnomer about the South. Like, y'all got all that y'all need, because you don't. You know, and I think it's important that we continue having these conversations. Listen, everybody, to learn more about the HVTN Faith Initiative, please visit hvtn.org, because the Faith Initiative is a national program involving faith ambassadors across the U.S. who connect with diverse faith communities. We share the most current evidence-based information regarding HIV, vaccines, and antibodies being developed and tested in clinical trials for HIV prevention and treatment. We have people of the Baha'i faith, we have Islam, we have Buddhist, we have Christian, we have thanks, Joe, appreciate you, man. We have the different faiths that's a part of the Faith Initiative, because we believe that it's all of us in this work together. So, Dr. Howard, give us some closing comments, and then I'm going to wrap it all up in a nice bow.
Certainly. Thank you, Dr. Donta, for allowing me to share this platform. As we like to say here, make sure you get tested. Make sure you know your status. Make sure that if you're feeling unsafe and don't know, look for some local organizations near you. There are folks doing this work. Don't give up on the church. There are a few prophets still left trying to sound the alarm. I love you. If you want to follow me, I'm on social media. Connect with me. And if I can do anything else to point you into the right direction, I believe that I'm a resource to point you to resources.
Appreciate you, man. Appreciate you. So y'all, listen, please check out Conversations with Clergy every Thursday right here on my YouTube page, Donta Morrison on YouTube, and Pyro Media Network. Every Thursday, check us out. You may see a live, you may see a pre-recorded, but whatever the case may be, it's going to be something new that's going to be dropping. So I hope this was informative for you on today. I hope you learned something. I have a conversation coming up that's going to talk about BNABs, broadly neutralizing antibodies that are being formed to help combat HIV. So we're talking about combating HIV. All right. So BNABs is going to come up. So get ready for that one. I have a lot of other special guests is going to be on the show. It's going to surprise you and be like, oh my God, wow, this is amazing. Because Pyro reminded me, I am the clergy. So I don't always have to have a clergy person because I'm clergy. I forget about that sometimes. But yeah, to learn more about the HVTN, please visit www.hvtn.org. Type in faith-based initiative, and you will see my wonderful picture along with all the other ambassadors that's a part of that. And then, of course, kudos to Church One Ministries, located in the wonderful city of Long Beach, who also contributes to Conversations with Clergy. So Church One Ministries can be found on social media on Facebook and Instagram. So check out Church One, that's led by the phenomenal Bishop W. Todd Urban Sr. Check them out, check them out, check them out. So if you enjoyed this show, make sure to share it with somebody. They can watch the pre-recorded. I'm not tripping. Hey, as long as they get the information, I don't care. Get tested, know your status, share your status, be protected, wear a condom, all that kind of stuff. You can't say you didn't know, because you do know. And I will see you next Thursday for another phenomenal episode of Conversations with Clergy. Take care. Have a great rest of your Thursday.
Thank you for watching Pyro Media Network. For more information, please visit pyromedianetwork.com.